You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything. Some people open up their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me. And that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything, your reflection. God, I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, find God in anything. When I talk to God, my daddy said don't ever assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decisions of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. Cause faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. No other time. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night to pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.
Peace, peace, family. What is up? How are y'all doing out there? And welcome back to another episode of When the Pastor Has Questions. Now, let me just go ahead and apologize up front. This one is a lot. I really bit off more than I can chew. In this one, uh, I must say the theists have so many different gymnastics that they can go through to keep people confused about the second coming. It's just ridiculous. The stuff that I've heard just within a day. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna deal with this topic all week. That's what I'm doing all week. I'm gonna start today. Tomorrow we take our usual break, and then Thursday maybe we'll be done with this because when it comes to the second coming of Jesus Christ, I'm telling you, they can pull one out of where the sun doesn't shine. I'm talking about pulling all kind of stuff. So, peace. What's up? That's good to see y'all. What's good, Chris? Hey, let me say a word. Chris Terrell, thank you to that brother there. He was actually would be one probably even better to do this video. I don't know if he will ever be able to come on, but Chris, thank you so much for the information you shared. It's very, very enlightening, and it will help me here tonight. And I hope I can organize myself because y'all, going at being at work all day and everything. So, Chris provided me with a lot of the information here, and this is his thing. Matter of fact, one of the other individuals made a comment about this being Chris's main topic, and not even knowing that me and Chris were already in conversation. So I want to say thanks to Chris. Chris, if you're able to come on or whenever you're able, we can come back to this subject. So, but I don't know if Quentin is out there. Quentin, if you're out there, you are invited. What's up, Texas? Good to see Texas got us in the place. And let me put y'all comments up so everybody's seeing. Chris is watching on Facebook, Texas, watching us on YouTube, and Joanne, peace to her. We are watching on Facebook over there. Now, y'all gonna have to bear with me because I got this is a lot to get through. What I want to do is for me start this off at a passage to me is pretty clear cut. It's pretty simple, but there are so many gymnastics that we'll go through to give you a preview of that. Y'all might recall when I was doing the trilogy on me crucifying the church, Quentin was on and he talked about prophecy and that being proof for God's word, I believe is the point he was making. And I brought up Matthew 16:28, and we're going to go there. What's up, sis? What up, Dewana? We're going to go to Matthew 16:28, and we're going to just kind of kick it off there, but there is so much more to go through. But for many of you, especially if you are bars on bars of dopeness, that's Chief Kali. I think let me put that up there. Kali, when you see that, I'm telling you, man, Kali, that song is ridiculous, man, in a good way. Love it. I'm about to jump on YouTube. All right, D, if you want to come on with me, you know you're welcome. I gotta be careful how I give out this link, but you're welcome to come on. All right, so let me start to share my screen. Y'all, I'm gonna have to take my time. I apologize if this feels dry to you. My show is a live show. I do not have time to be going back and doing editing and all that different stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to share the verse that really kicked this off for me, and we all try to deal with it that way. All right, y'all rocking with me. Good to see y'all in the place. And let's see. I might need to make this a little bit bigger so that y'all can see it. I don't know why they put it at the top here. I haven't found another way. Let's go. All right, let's scroll back down. Now, where do we need? I might need to make it a little smaller, actually. All right, let's go back up here. Okay, discipleship is costly. Now, I'm going to get into some things about get the context. Jesus is talking to his 12, right? And he's telling them about some things that what they must do, that they got to go out and preach and all that. But I want to focus on this verse 28. Y'all see this? Verse 28. And here's your references up here. We'll get to those in a minute. But verse 28 says, and he's talking to his 12. Jesus says to them, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now that is a plain reading. That's what it says. Y'all see it. Did not change it. Didn't give y'all any explanation. That's right there, right? That's pretty plain. The problem with it is that it cannot be left where it is for those who are believers, because if it's left just for what it says, Houston, we have a problem. All right, let me back up and I'm gonna say a few things in here because I can't assume that everybody knows the Son of Man and all that. So he says, verily I say unto thee, there be some standing here. First thing we need to recognize when we're talking about this subject of Jesus coming back and what's being said about his return, he, in this context, let me do it like this. Not who Matthew is writing to necessarily, but let's get into what this supposed Matthew is saying. He's saying that Jesus is saying to his audience at that time. What is Jesus saying to his audience at that time? Some of y'all right there talking to Jesus, like if me and you were having a conversation, this is what's happening. He says, some of y'all that are here right now, standing here in front of me, you will not die until you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, Let me go back to the comments just in case, because I can't see them at the same time. Because if he is talking to those that were right there, let me see. If he's talking to those that were right there with him, we have to understand it in their context. Believers are always talking about context, context, context. Well, guess what? We have to understand this in its context. And he is not talking to believers today. Jesus was talking to his 12 back then. All right. I'm sure we got that. Let me check the comments right quick before. How many will read this passage and will make themselves the you addressing it? See, Chris, I really wish Chris could come on, because I didn't know you had said that, Chris, but that's exactly what they do. They read this text and they think when it says there be some, that some is them. Let me let you Christians know the some right here is not you. In hermeneutics, is it not important to understand the writer, who the writer is, number one, and who the writer is writing to, and what the writer is writing about? Okay, who the writer is writing to and what the writer is writing about. Now, for some believers, y'all believe that these scriptures, this is talking about y'all, the church, or what have you. This is there for you to use. Okay, well, guess what? It may be. Here's the thing. In this context of this story, we have to understand it where it is, right? He says, there be some standing here that will not taste death till they see the Son of Man. Now, here is my position. Jesus said this, it's in red, and if this it's obviously not true, right? Because we're all here. The end of the world didn't happen. Jesus never came back. But when you look at this text, it clearly says that there will be some that will not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his skin. Now, I came up in the denomination of the Churches of Christ, and here is just one of the ways believers try to finagle their way around this passage, as Quentin tried to do. As he tried to do, I think it was last week. One of the things that they will say is that the church was the coming, or when the church came in Acts chapter 2, it came with power, and that was the coming that Jesus is talking about, because the church came with power, and there were still those of that generation, because Peter was there. He preached on that day. So these people that Jesus is talking to in this text were still around in Acts chapter 2, that day of Pentecost, and therefore that was the fulfillment of this. Let's keep it real simple. That is not what Jesus said. He said, till they see. And go and look up see. The word see here means to see with the eye. It literally, that's literally what this word means. Not to understand with a perception of in the mind. Jesus is saying, no, they're going to see him. The phrase Son of Man is a phrase that Jesus used of himself. Now, it really should be that simple, right? But it's not. I already told y'all I bit off more than I could chew. They have so many different verbal gymnastics that we may be able to go through concerning this. Let's see what is said in the comments before I come back. I will be attempting to come through on my cell phone. All right. You know what, Chris? Just in case you're able, y'all bear with me. Let me go ahead and send Chris the invite, Chris Terrell, just in case he is able to come on here, because this is going to take, Chris, I'm putting it in Messenger, just so you know. I'm putting it in Messenger, the StreamYard link. There you go. All right, Chris, you should have that or coming to you. All right. So Ms. Blackfoot put in a couple of passages here. Let's see. Explicitly explains that Jesus was to come soon, then, and not now. That's another great point. Thank you to my sister for bringing that up, because one thing that most lay Christians don't seem to either understand or maybe I think they don't really even know this. The followers of Jesus, those apostles, okay, those disciples, those individuals, from the way that they are said to have spoken and the way that you can read them speaking, we'll get into. I think most of our focus tonight is probably going to stem mostly around the books of First and Second Peter, mostly Second Peter tonight. But they speak of it as being imminent, something that is going to happen in their time. In other words, those people of that day believe it was going to happen before they died. This is extremely important for us to understand. To those of you who are believers, do you know that? Have you read that? Have you understood that these individuals thought this was going to happen in their lifetime? Okay. So having said that, let's go. This is a time sensitive issue. Understand, time sensitive issue. Now, I need to address something because somebody asked me in a comment earlier about on my thumbnail I put AD 33, how Jesus died, and here it is. Now we're in 2022, and he's still dead, is what I put. Somebody was having issues with the date AD 33. It doesn't really matter for me. It's not a hard date for me. I do understand the discrepancies in the time and the Gregorian calendar and all of that. And some would say it's AD 30. That's great. But look like we got Chris, y'all. Look like we got Chris. Man, look. Chris, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I see you good, bro. Can you hear me? All right, we trying to bring it might have froze up, but we're gonna leave it right there. And hopefully Chris's feed will come in loud and clear. Because if he's able to get in here with me,
Yeah.
I think it's trying to come through, but it's a little choppy. Try it again, bro. Just stay with me because I want you on this one, man. We're gonna do this one all week if we have to. All right. I can hear your audio. All right, we got you.
Hello?
I can Man, that's good. That's good. What's up, Chris? I hear you, man. It's breaking up on them now. Are you muted? Chris, I think you muted. Hold on, let me take the mute off. Take the mute off. There you go. All right. Now we should be
Hey,
good.
can you hear me, Elijah?
Hear you perfectly good. Perfect.
Uh, um,
Yeah, you good. Can you hear me? He must can't hear me,
I
but
can't.
you good, man. Y'all be patient with the technical difficulties because I'm telling y'all, this is this topic right here, if depending on how we deal with it, I think we can actually get some believers to start scratching their head on a few things. Chris, we hear you good, bro. I don't know. Can some of y'all let us know in the chat if y'all can hear Chris? Let us know in the chat if you can hear. I'm gonna type in here. I hear you, bro.
Okay, can you hear
Uh,
me, Elijah?
yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you
I'm
hear me?
type. Yes.
Well, come back in.
Must be delayed. I'm all right. He probably gonna go out and come back in. I was trying to let him know I could hear him. All right. So y'all see this right here? Are y'all? Let me see. I got this stuff popping up on my screen. All right. So keep in mind in these three verses up here, y'all see where it says Mark 9, 1 through 13. We can hear him. Does he have an external speaker on? I don't know. He should be able to see your comment though. And y'all see Luke 9, 27, 36. All right. These passages leave out what the way Matthew says it. Now, to the layperson, to the person who may not know, Mark's gospel is considered by everybody, Christian scholars, secular scholars, is considered to be the first gospel. And they know that Matthew and Luke borrowed from Mark. Now, one of the things that's significant about what Matthew does is that all the so-called mistakes that Mark makes in the Jewish vein of things,
It'll make us
quoting
work.
wrong days and all of that, Matthew goes back and correct. Chris, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now, Elijah.
We could hear you good too, man. Hey, listen, bro. This right here, as I start to look at it, and really not the subject, but it's all the different hoops that believers
Yes.
have to jump through on this that makes this one so complex. Because for me, it's done right here in Matthew 16:28. It's done. But
Yeah.
for them, they will go into, like my man Quentin last week, and in the churches of Christ, which I came out of, the main teaching on this is that Jesus was speaking of when the kingdom came with power in Acts chapter 2. But that's not even what this says. Matthew said, till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Now, Jesus was
Yes.
leaving in Acts chapter 1. So then something called the Spirit came in Acts chapter 2. That's not Jesus. You see, for me, it's just that simple. But what say ye?
Wow.
Can you hear
Man.
me? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. What was the last thing you said?
No, I was just saying, for me, it's just that simple that Jesus said this. And then when we get to so-called the coming of the kingdom in Acts 2, that still was not him coming back. And he didn't say anything other than what he said here, if what he said here is correct. Because one thing I didn't point out to Quentin last week was when he tried to use Mark, and he said, you didn't use the other reference text, bruh, to break down what that meant. What he doesn't realize is that what he's doing is he's speaking against Matthew, who's supposed to be an inspired writer. If Matthew said, Jesus said, till they see me, the Son of Man, coming in the kingdom, then that ought to be authoritative. You get what I mean?
Wow. Yes, very,
Yeah.
very much so. And like we discussed earlier, I think when it comes to this subject and it comes to these passages that many will take as being a part of the study of eschatology, when it comes to what is termed as that within what many persons, believers in this instances, are calling their New Testament or their Bible. I think what is so very imperative is not only audience relevance, but a lot of these time statements and what they would have meant to the audiences that were perceived to be the audiences by whoever these authors were. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of the authors of these texts, we don't know who the authors were. We don't know
Right.
who wrote these things. Now we have the names that are attributed to the documents, but we don't know, you know what I'm saying, if the name that we do see in a lot of our Bibles and the names that have been fixated to these documents were the actual persons who wrote these things. But if we're to entertain what is what's believed to be the authorship of this text, in this case, Matthew, you know what I'm saying? What does the believer believe about Matthew and if he was inspired? So if he was inspired, and this person is writing Jesus as having said, and this is clearly the speaker speaking to his contemporaries, because it's clear those that are standing here. So
Right.
so it's like, bro, it's like I said in my first comment, it's like how many people read that passage, and not just this one, but the totality of the biblical text. In every you, they insert themselves into that you. Like reading a dialogue while inserting themselves as being on the end of the recipient of the dialogue. And like I
Right.
wonder how many other books is this done that Christians read? Do they do this with any other book the way they do it with the Bible? But that becomes a very problem. Like it becomes a huge problem because I think there's a lot that can be, and it sound like I'm breaking up a little bit, but
You
um,
are, but it's clearer. It's
I
clear
think
enough.
there's a
I'm getting what you're saying. I'm getting it. It's like a little choppy, but we can make out what you're
okay,
saying good enough.
okay, okay. I'm gonna try next time to do this through my computer. I think that'll be a lot better. But I was out handling some business, and I just really wanted to hop on, man. Since
Man,
you're dealing with this subject matter, but I will. Uh,
no, I was just gonna say we gonna after looking at it, I can't. I'm gonna do this all week. I'm gonna do this topic all week. If you able,
okay,
or when we're talking. Only thing is, I'm usually off. I don't get home till about 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So anytime after that, if you able, because I was looking at some of the stuff you were sending over, and I can tell you've gone through this another way. And when somebody made a comment on the post about, oh, this is right up Chris alley. And I was like, yeah, me and him was just talking about this. So that's why I really wanted you to be able to come on and provide, because this is a full plate. I can't eat it by myself. This one is it's a lot.
it's a lot. It's a lot, bro. It's definitely a lot.
So going forward though, I want to get to this talk about time. And you brought up First Peter 4:7 when we were talking a little earlier. I can share that on the screen right quick if that's all right with you.
Okay.
And because it uses this phrase at hand, okay? And I don't let me see if y'all can see that. Can y'all? Okay, yeah, I'm in First Peter 4. And for context sake, let's see where can we start reading for the sake of time here. Let's try here at verse 5. It says, "Who shall give an account to him that is ready to judge the quick and the dead? For this cause was the gospel preached also to them that are dead, that they might be judged according to men in the flesh, but live according to God in the spirit." For the non-believers or those that didn't know, I don't think he's talking about dead as in dead in the body. He's talking about dead in the spirit. However, for our purposes here tonight, the focus is verse 7, where he says, "But the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer." And Chris, I know you've done a lot of looking into that at hand. Before I say anything, and not knowing what your time is like, can you speak a little bit on that for us?
Oh yes, bro. And you're kind of choppy as well. But let's definitely try to get through this. But with that passage in First Peter chapter 4 verse 7, one thing I also like to point to as well, if you could do this, bro, before we kind of touch on that one, if we look
Okay.
at what was written in First Peter chapter 1 and verse 20,
Okay, I got that one up somewhere. I might have to
because
bring
I
up another
think I,
tab, but
I
I got
think
so many tabs up. You said First Peter 1:20. Okay, let me get that one up. Give me 1 sec. It's gone.
uh-huh.
First Peter 1:20. All right, let me share screen. Let's see. So present, share,
Yeah,
First
that's real.
Peter. All right, can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it, bro. If you want to read it.
Okay. It says here, starting at verse 20, y'all, "Who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who by him do believe in God, that raised him up from the dead and gave him glory, that your faith and hope might be in God." Let me go to the screen. "Seeing ye have
Was that
purified."
verse 20, bro?
Yeah, but
That
this
there's
is First Peter.
something
You wanted First
I
Peter or
really want
Second?
to.
Say it again. I'm sorry, it's breaking up.
Yeah, yeah. For the one, specifically verse 20 in the latter person.
Last times for you talking about where he says last times?
Yeah, yeah, yes,
Yeah, okay. Right here. I got it highlighted now. You see it?
yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Man, this
Okay.
child
So
name.
it says, who verily was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you. I see where you're going now, but go ahead.
You kind of see where I'm going, bro. And what's so interesting about that when it comes to the author of this document, what was the perception of this author in relation to any last times?
Right,
Obviously,
right,
the author perceived himself as being within the last times. For him to
right.
state in these last times, so it's like I find it very fascinating that many approaches to these texts, especially when we deal with more of the futurist perspective. And I wanted to state this earlier that this subject, bro, and I know you're pretty much aware of this. And I'm pretty sure there are many watchers that are watching this live feed. That there are so many subjects that are discussed and argued among Christians that have created a splittering among Christians. And eschatology is not excluded from that. So
This is
you have
definitely one
Christians
of
that
them.
are futurists. In other words, yes. So the futurist perspective, they're still waiting for the Perusia. They're still waiting on the event. But when it comes to that perspective, a Christian who would deem themselves preterists, when it comes to eschatology, would say the futurist is absolutely wrong in their assessment of these passages. So from the preterist perspective, they believe a lot of these things have already really happened. And they make a lot of the destruction of Jerusalem in AD 70. So as I examine this, bro, in light of contextual frame, audience relevance, what would this meant to the author who is writing in these last days? So how could someone read this, bro, and somehow say that what the author meant is this modern conception that many hold of a Christ coming in their future in the year 2022? That you got to do a lot of gymnastics, bro, to try to make this passage into that. Like you got to do a whole lot of bending and distorting to make that into the modern conception. And I'm not saying every Christian holds this, because as I stated, there are certain Christians who would be preterists in their perspective when it comes to eschatology. And then you have those who are partial preterists. They kind of want to have their foot in both camps, the
Right,
preterist camp
right.
and the futurist camp. Um, but yeah, it, it's a lot of gymnastics,
For
bro. And
for
I
for
mean,
those
this was one of the last areas.
for those that are watching, can you, because they may not know
Uh
about
huh.
the preterist or what that is, can you say a little bit more about the preterist? That was something I really didn't know much about them till maybe this past summer. Can you say more about them?
Okay. Okay. And what I would say for the watchers that are watching this, please go back and look into the things that are discussed in this live for yourself as an individual. We all have technology. We live in an age of information. Everybody that's watching this, either watching through a tablet, a phone, a computer, Google search. If you do a simple Google search on preterism, if you do a simple Google search on partial preterism and futurism, but when it comes to the preterist perspective, like I said, because they still believe in the Perusia, they still believe that Christ came. It was just in AD 70. And they have their list of passages, and they make a lot of emphasis not only on the time statements, but also audience relevance. So even when it comes to the perspective of the preterists, in each of these camps, what I've noticed in studying each one of them, they each have their strengths and their weaknesses. And there's a lot of strengths within the preterist camp that I think You know what I'm saying? I suggest those of the partial preterist camp or the futurist camp should really give a genuine hearing to. Like, why are the preterists saying what they're saying? What are they pointing to? And in their mind and in their perspective, they feel their perspective is validated from the Bible that they're reading. But to do a deep dive, family, for anybody that's watching this, it is so easy to go to YouTube, to go to Google, to go to Amazon, and find literature and watch videos when it comes to the preterist perspective. But to sum it up in a nutshell, they believe that the Perusia happened. It just took place in AD 70 of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And there's a lot of emphasis on Matthew chapter 24. A lot of the
Hmm.
apocalyptic texts that we find in the Gospels, they really zoom in on those time statements and audience relevance, like who was addressed. When we think of like Matthew chapter 24, but like at the beginning of the chapter, it's very clear that this conversation that we're reading in Matthew chapter 24 was between Jesus and his disciples in private, privately
Right.
speaking to. So we read all the yous in the passage. Why today would I insert myself into the you? When he says, let those in Judea flee into the mountains when they see something, why would I in Texas believe that's talking to me? Obviously, he was addressing those in Judea, not in
Right.
Texas, not in Alabama, not California, not Florida, not New York. So there definitely
Right.
is time constraints and there's an audience constraint. Um,
Right.
but
Hmm.
it can be hard for
Well,
someone who's always believed in. Uh,
no, I wanted to offer this up for those that will be churches of Christ, because I know a lot of them will see it since that's where a lot of my Facebook friends, since I came out of there. One of the things we used to say in the churches of Christ, when using our hermeneutic, or at least I was taught this, I'm not saying it's true, but I know a lot of them are taught. When you look at the long ending of Mark, where it starts to talk about these signs will follow them that believe, and it uses that word them that believe, how they're going to take up serpents, they'll drink poison and won't be harmed. Well, it was taught in the churches of Christ that when it said them, that this text was talking about those that were standing right there with Jesus, because there are those who are living today that try to use those texts to say, see, we can do these miraculous things. Well, in the churches of Christ, we believe that miracles had ceased. So when they would use Mark 16, the latter ending, and say that this is talking about them, the them that are right there with Jesus. So I want the churches of Christ
yes,
use that same hermeneutic when talking about the coming of Christ, and recognize when he said, when he talked and said, there will be some of you who will not die. He wasn't talking to us today. He was talking to them. Those individuals we know are dead. This is this when this is dealt with just for what it is, the nail is in the coffin, it's over. But because they have so many verbal gymnastics with this, they have to twist and turn to make this work. And I'm surprised that to some of them that that's okay. Why do you have to do all of that for a all-knowing, omniscient being who wrote this book? You shouldn't have to do all that.
wow. Yeah, not at all. Shouldn't have to go through all these hoops, these mental hoops, these psychological hoops, trying to make sense of this. And I think the presence of argumentation and tension, even among believers when it comes to this subject, is evident that the message might not be as clear as they're saying it is. Is it really that clear? Now, I think at a really surface reading of these texts, now, mind you, we're all speaking English, reading out of the English translation. And I did want to point this out too, bro, as well. I did want to point this out. Even if we just deal with our language, we're speaking English. Those that are watching are speaking English. Family, when we use the word soon in any context outside of this subject, especially with the futuristic perspective in mind, when we use the word soon, what do we mean when we use the word soon? So right now, bro, I'm at a gas station doing this. If I was to call my wife and child and tell my wife I'll be home soon, why would I expect my wife to process that as I'll be back next month, next year, 50 years from now? But somehow when we read soon in our English translations, it becomes something else. But I think when we actually look at the Greek words that these words have been translated into, we see that many contain a imminence, an urgency, an immediacy, a
Right.
haste, and there's no way, bro, that one does that type of digging and not find that language. It is there. But I think what has happened, bro, because so much has been vested into a certain perspective of this subject, these texts can be read while removing the audience that was known to be the audience by the author because of the implications if it don't apply to those today. I mean, like you said, it's a huge nail in the coffin, bro. Like for someone to find out that what they always believed was about them may possibly have nothing to do with them, like that crushes
Right.
ego, bro. Like years, I've always been told that this is what it is, and to find out, or at least to consider, it might not be that. That's a
That
that's a
that
tall order,
hurts.
bro. I mean, it hurts. It hurts. And for those that are watching, I've been there, family. I've been there. I had the perspective. For years, I'm 34, from the age of 3 to my late 20s, early 30s. This was my perspective. I was either declaring it or I was hearing it. So it's very much a part of my upbringing, this specific narrative of a waiting for a coming. But in all those years, to be honest, bro, I didn't really take into regard the time statements or
Me
the
neither.
actual audience, let alone because years, bro.
I wanted to bring this up while I got you here. Here, let me share. I want to go to Second Peter now, where here. Let me just go to the tab and start sharing it. This has to do with them asking the question, where is the promise of his coming? And you sent me something from the book that you're checking out. I really need to check out that book. And I thought it made a very good point. Can y'all see that? It says the coming day of the Lord. Is that up there? Okay. You seeing that?
Yeah, I see it, bro.
Okay, and let me read a little bit here. I'll try to read it from this screen. So I can see it says, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lust. Let me put a caveat right here. For the believers, I do know some of y'all teach this, but there are others that do not understand that even those writers, those biblical writers, believe that they were living in the last days then. That's not some new thing
Clearly.
that just happened whenever a war come up or whatever, or y'all hear about something bad. Oh, we in the last days. No, you have been in the last days ever since the first century. The Hebrew writer says, God hath in these last days spoken unto us by his dear son, Hebrews 1:1. So go check that out. But what the point I want y'all to see here is when it says, and I'm on verse 4, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? The supposed writer, because we could debate that Peter didn't write this, and he probably didn't, if he wrote anything. But right here where it says, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? To y'all that are watching, notice the writer is attempting to answer a question seemingly that's going around. He says, for since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of the creation. Now, and then I'll read verse 5. For this they are willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God and the heavens were of old and the earth standing out of the water. Then it goes into all this about the flood. But the focus of what I'm getting at, and thank you for sending me this, Chris, it says, where is the promise of his coming? Now, here's what I'm gonna read an excerpt from the book that you sent me, and I want the believers to think long and hard about this. It says in this book, where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers fell asleep. This is what the author is addressing. He says, Jesus had promised to return before the people of his generation died off. We already read that. Especially before all of his apostles, the fathers of the churches, had died off. And it says, well, those men all died off, and Jesus had not yet returned. This apparently led some to ask a reasonable question: where is the promise of his coming? For ever since the fathers died. That's what we see here, right, y'all? Y'all see that? It's in the scripture that this writer of Second Peter is saying that other people are saying, where is the promise of his coming? Now, watch what the writer of this book brilliantly points out. He says, at the time of this question was asked, Peter was either alive or Peter was dead. It says, if Peter was alive, the apostle, if Peter was alive, a comment claiming that all apostles were dead would not have come up. I had to read that a couple of times. Now watch this. If he were dead for decades, an apostle from Peter, this book wouldn't even exist if he was already dead. So let's just go back to the first one. He said, if Peter is alive, a claiming that all the apostles were dead would not have come up. I don't know if y'all if I'm saying this right, if those hear me. I see Quentin is on here. Here's the thing. He does not have to ask this question if Peter is still alive, because the prophecy that Jesus made, that there be some that are here that will not taste death, that prophecy is still viable. Do y'all get what I'm saying? They don't need to ask that question, where is the promise of his coming, if all the apostles are still alive, because there's still chance for the prophecy to come true if they're all still alive, but they're not. So people started in that day, way back then, asking this question: where the heck is your Jesus? Man. And so, and to your point, when you say soon, this language, we got scholars that have gone on and got degrees and they can read this stuff in the original language. And every time they translate the word at hand and these words quickly, it has to do with the writer using a imminent event, something that is taking place. Now, before the Christians say, well, nobody know when, yeah, they may have not known the day, but they for sure thought it was going to happen in their lifetime.
And can I say something, bro, to add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I love to make reference, and I believe this is in Matthew 23, I believe, the parable of the fig tree, right? Oh, and yeah. I think I shared this with you in Messenger. That isn't it interesting, even within this parable, it's very clear that the author is writing Jesus as having said that when you see this activity on this fig tree, you know that this is pretty much about to transpire. So in other words, it's like it's telling of the people are aware of when something's imminent. And then it goes into so it's like it's there. It's like, so when somebody says that, because I even had a pastor tell me this one time years ago, of this double fulfillment. Okay. Or this double talk. or when he speaks of, or when this Jesus speaks of something being imminent to the contemporaries, it could have something to do with them, but also persons thousands of years into their future. And it's like
Hmm.
you got to do a whole lot to try to. You got to do a whole lot um, to make that what the text is even implying. Uh, but yeah, man, it's yeah,
But
yeah.
I
So
thought
I
I
like to refer to that parable.
no, I was just saying that I thought that the and I know there's a delay from me to you, so I try to wait a second. Um, but and I see Quentin is on too. I sent him the link through Messenger. Quentin, if you want to come on here, just come on. But I thought that this point that the author of that book you got there was a brilliant point. There is no need for them to ask the question when Jesus supposedly preached that they were going to be alive. So if Peter is the actual author of this book, that means Peter is alive, but people are already asking the question, "Where's your Jesus?" There would be no reason for them to ask that question. Now, now that gets into the
Because he
authorship
will be the
of
proof.
who. Right, right. Peter be like well, yeah, he said that to me. I'm right here. I'm not dead yet. So he gonna be back in a minute now because I'm still here. But Peter ain't there. And
Wow.
that we we ain't got time to really go into the authorship and all that. But to the Christians, just so y'all know, at least one book. I'll just give them this one because everybody knows. Nobody knows who wrote Hebrews, and if authorship is part of hermeneutics, then where does that leave you with understanding that book? Nobody knows who wrote that book, not for sure. So I think that is an excellent point. And there's so many points I want to go through, but bro, I'm trying to give you as much time as possible
Man,
because
that's a
I'm
lot.
just glad you was able to come on. I got some more stuff here, but anything else you want to say? Offer up right this
And,
second,
and
anyway.
I would say this as well, um, because I know many do point to Second Peter chapter 3, in verse 8. One day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day unto
I
the
got
Lord.
it at the bottom of the screen. Yep,
Now,
I'm gonna go to it.
you know what I'm saying? But my thing is this, bro. With everything that we do read in the third chapter of the second epistle, and if we are to believe this is the same author, right? Obviously, and we just read earlier that whoever this author is believe they're being in the last times already. So it's like when it comes to a passage like um, verse 8 of chapter 3 of Second Peter, I sometimes wonder, and I used to do this, is this cited in an attempt to protect the futuristic perspective? Like it's something that they can cling
Mm,
to, like um, to validate to a certain degree the perspective that those today are still waiting on this event. And many say that it's soon. So it kind of goes back, okay, what does soon actually mean? Does soon mean the same thing as it did to the original audiences in these documents? Like, what does soon really mean? So it's I see it as extremely problematic because is one taking the word of this anonymous author over something that is extremely clear that an author of the gospel writes Jesus is having said there's some that are standing here that will not taste death till the Son of Man. I mean, out of these two passages, bro, which is more clear?
it's right there, man. It's for me, it's right in your face. Now I got one that I think is even more condemning for the believer than what we've dealt with so far. If you got give me a moment to share Matthew 10:23. I want to share that. 1 second. Matthew do I have okay, I got it right here. Okay, Matthew 10:23. Let me make sure y'all are seeing it. Okay, there it is. Jesus is talking to he has told his disciples, y'all got to go and preach, right? and y'all have to tell them about the good news, basically. And yeah, we shooting through this. This is the introductory one. But look at this mess right here. If you are a believer or a non-believer, lay your eyes on Matthew 10. Let's start at verse 22 just to get a little bit of context. But this right here to me is something else. He said, "And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endureth to the end shall be saved." Now watch this. "But when they persecute you in this city, flee to another. For verily I say unto you, ye shall not have gone over the cities of," somebody calling, "over the cities of Israel," oops, "till the Son of Man be come." I'm sorry, bro. Hey,
Like
that's plain. Like, come on, man. Come on. What kind of
that.
backflips, triple flips? What you gonna do with that? This man, Jesus said,
I
"You
mean,
will not have been gone through all the cities till the Son of Man be now." I mean, even if, all right, watch this. Even if you extend that out 2,000 years and say, "Oh well, it's way in the future," are you going to tell me that the missionaries haven't been in all the cities of Israel yet? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
wow.
Because they have
Ooh,
been throughout all the cities, bruh. He said this nearly 2,000 years ago. Where is he? What you think about that verse right there, man?
where is it, bro? It's
Matthew
something.
Matthew
I think it's
10,
pretty plain.
yeah, Matthew 10 twenty
And 20,
three. I was
10,
like,
10 and 20.
what?
I think it's very clear. I mean, based on whoever authored this writing um of this exchange, this dialogue. Clearly, you have a speaker and you have recipients of the speaker, and the speaker is the disciples, the contemporary disciples of this speaker. Like, you will not have gone through the cities of Israel?
Right.
Okay. I wonder how many believers today, Christians today, what are they taking from that, bro? Like, are they inserting themselves into the you of that passage? And how many of them have actually went through any city of Israel? So, what are they reading when they read that, bro? What are they reading when they read that? Is it just denying who was actually being addressed? Like I said, to protect the futuristic perspective. So now we got to bend things, distort things. Well, it can't mean that because this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened. So it can't be what we're reading. It's got to be something else. And to me, bro, that just creates a lot of room for dishonesty, bro. A lot of dishonesty intellectually. And I refuse, bro, for anybody to try to gaslight me. You know what I'm saying? They're not finna do. You're not finna make me think that I can't comprehend what I'm reading, and not just in the translation, but uh, in looking at the Greek script, looking at these words, and studying how the words were used in the milieu in which they were spoken. But I mean, bro, that's clear. Like, I would really like to, and I've heard all of them, bro, but I would really like to hear if there was one in the thread. If they can give in the thread, what do they take that passage to mean?
Man,
Without,
Quentin is
now
on
mind you,
here.
bro, without
I see him the link.
sacrificing,
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
without sacrificing audience relevance, bro, what would they take this passage to mean without sacrificing audience relevance?
I'm really trying to see if I can do some gymnastics here. Let me look at it close and see if I can come up with
I'm gonna
some
try.
BS. Let me see.
Let,
Flee to
Oh
another
man, it's getting
city, for verily I say unto you, ye shall not have go. See, the thing is, like you said, even if I want to read myself into this text, I ain't never been to Israel. I'm just saying this to me is so freaking plain. I sent Quentin the link for those that are in the comments and stuff. Quentin, I sent you the link on Messenger. We would love for you to come on here and show us the triple backflip that you're gonna be able to do on this, because you said it's light work and I'm not seeing it, bro. I just be he's okay. He said begin at verse 5. Let's go to verse 5. Quentin said go to verse 5. We get some context and we'll see. We'll see. Quentin, I'm hey, put me on the spot because I'm not seeing it, Quentin. But I'm gonna go up to verse 5 and
what
see
is
what we
this?
can get.
23.
He
Oh,
said
let me see.
Matthew 10:5. Quentin, I assume you want me to start at Matthew 10 and verse 5. Okay, so it says these 12, excuse me, these 12 Jesus sent forth and commanded them, saying, go not into the way of the Gentiles or into any city of the Samaritans,
The way of the
enter ye
Gentiles.
not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Now, Queen, you got to tell us what that means. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor brass for your purses, nor scrip for your journey, neither two coats, neither shoes, nor yet staves, for the workman is worthy of his meat. And into whatsoever city or town ye shall enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and there abide till ye go hence. And when ye come into the house, salute it. Verse 13. And if the house be worthy, let your peace come upon it. But if it be not be worthy, okay, so he giving them all the stuff of how they supposed to handle themselves. Verse 14. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear your words when ye depart out of the house or city, shake off the dust from your feet. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah. I'm trying to get through this because we gotta get to verse 23. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents, harmless as doves, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to the councils, for they will scourge you in their synagogues, and ye shall be brought before governors and kings. I'm sorry, for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for it shall be given you. Okay, I'm sorry. Giving you in the same hour that ye shall speak, for it is not ye that speak, but the Spirit of your Father which speaketh in you, and the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father of the child, and the child shall rise up against their parents, and shall cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth to the end shall be saved. And we're right back at verse 23. Now, I would need Quentin to break this down because me and you, Chris, we just dealt with this both ways. Whether it was talking to them or whether it was talking to us, have we not been to every city in Israel? And I don't mean me and you personally. I mean, have missionaries been to Israel? Do they not already know this in all the cities of Israel today? And if they do know it, that still negates this prophecy because Jesus said, you will not have gone over all the cities of Israel till the Son of Man come. I don't care which way you slice it, whether you insert yourself in this text or say it's them. Either way you slice this text, you got a problem.
And it's a, and if they there's any degree of recognition, and going back to verse 5, I think it's very telling that it's known who's being spoken to. It's very clear. Isn't that amazing? Like, it's very clear that you know who's being spoken to. But why does that apply in certain instances and not in others? Because as we look at a lot of the content in chapter 10, can't you hear a lot of overlap of the content in Matthew chapter 24?
Mm. You
It's
want to
a
go to
lot of
24?
overlap. The persecution. Yeah, we can. Because there's something I did have in mind in regard to the phrase "this generation" in Matthew chapter 24 and verse 34. Um, and who that generation would have been? Was it contemporary to the speaker, or as some have read it to be, but it's not rendered this way? They read it as if it was said that generation. Speaking of something, speaking of a generation future to the actual audience that was perceived to be the audience by the author. So it's like I think, and I've heard that plenty of times. Like they read it as if it's double fulfillment, or this means that.
Hmm.
But
I
what?
got it up on the
so,
screen,
so we can.
because I'm gonna come back to what all that Quentin had me read in Matthew 10, because he's trying to say it's not speaking of a second coming and all that whole almost chapter I just read. But we'll come back to that. But your verse is up. You say you want to go to 24 and verse 33. I think it was. Yeah. There it is.
Chapter 24 and verse 34.
Okay, it says there, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." And I want to read two verses before that and read down to that so people can see we're talking
Yeah,
about
do
that
that for
fig
time.
tree. Yeah, right. So it says,
Yes,
and I'm reading on the small screen. It says, "Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When this branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know
there you
that
go.
summer is nigh." And verse 33, "So likewise, ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors." Verse 34, "Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled." That, of course, is clear to us because we are on this side of the fence. But for you believers, go back and he is giving them the forecast. He's saying when the weather looks like this, it's about to happen.
It, it's about that. Now, for those that may doubt that this generation in verse 34 is the contemporaries of the speaker based on the text, the writing, let us go back and we're going to see the same phrase, this generation, in Matthew chapter 23. We can start at verse 33 and we'll conclude at verse 36.
Okay, let me get it. You say you want to start at verse 33? Should be coming up here.
33 to 36.
Okay, so let me make sure it's up on y'all screen. Okay, y'all see that? All right, it says in Matthew 23, verse 33, "Ye serpents, ye generation of vipers, how can ye escape from the damnation of hell? Wherefore, behold, I send unto you prophets and wise men and scribes, and some of them ye shall kill and crucify, and some of them shall ye scourge in your synagogues and persecute them from city to city, that upon you may come all the righteous bloodshed upon the earth, from the blood of the righteous Abel unto the blood of Zacharias, son of Barchus, whom ye slew between the temple and the altar." In verse 36, "Verily I say unto you, all these things shall come upon this generation. Hmm.
Generation.
You want me to stop at 36, right?
Oh yeah, 36. Yeah, but just that phrase that's there. Obviously, the language is that of speaking to the contemporaries that we're reading, the speaker that we're reading of. What was written to have been spoken to these audiences, and I just don't see how that's not clear. Like how that's not there. How that's meant to be something else.
One thing
Uh,
I think that's coming into play for our believing, and again to the believers, look, not trying to be insulting, but we're trying to make this plain for you. But one of the things I think that's coming in play, I would love to have a psychologist come on here and talk about how your mind has to protect this view you have built around reality, and it is finding all kind of imaginations and verbal gymnastics to allow for this to remain true for the person that believes it. Now, and I know you're moving around. I'm glad you're with me. I want to read an excerpt from the book Nailed. If y'all don't know that book, go look up David Fitzgerald. But I want to
I
read
have
what
all of them.
Man, that's a good one. I'm going to read what David said about Matthew 10:23. First, I'm going to read 23 again, and then I'm going to read what he says about it. He says here, let me see who this is. Chris, I'm going to put you on mute right while I read this. 1 second.
Okay. Okay.
He says, this is Matthew 10:23, y'all. For surely I say unto you, you will not have gone through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Then this is what David says. He says, the Son of Man is Jesus, of course, and his coming spells the end of the world. The text for that, see Mark 13:24 through 27 for the details. The sun and the moon darkening, the stars all falling, etc. He says modern day believers rationalize this failed prophecy by saying that Jesus was really talking to all of us in the audience, but his disciples would have had no way of knowing this passage wasn't really directed at them. Besides, once you start rationalizing this much, aren't you already as good as admitting the gospel is nothing more than a fictitious window dressing? Then he goes on to say, and does anyone really think that Christian missionaries haven't gone through all the cities of Israel yet? And if Jesus really did say it, why didn't the world end in the year 30? No matter how one tries to twist this verse into something else, the fact remains that this prophecy of Jesus just doesn't hold up. Doesn't that make him a false prophet? It don't hold up.
And I have all his books. I have his whole series. He has that nailed, and he has three other books. And for those that are watching this, if works are cited, um, and I say this on my own feeds, is it ever wise to condemn a work that a person knows they've never taken the time to crack open? So with everything that's cited through the course of this live feed, if you know that you have not read the material or at least looked at the material, is it wise to condemn it without actually exploring it, at least giving it a fair hearing? But I mean, yeah, something. I mean, I think that's pretty clear, bro. Very clear. Um, I probably got to step off in a minute, Elijah. Um,
Okay.
but I wanted to see, bro, before I did leave, if we could look at Hebrews. You mentioned Hebrews earlier. If we can
Yeah, I can
look at
pull it up.
Hebrews chapter 10, specifically verse 25, because this verse 25 has been abused by a lot of churches today to say that this points to justifying why they congregate and assemble. But when we think of the audience and we think of the language, I mean, it's very telling. but also we want to look at verse 37, and that's really where I want to kind of hang my hat at.
Okay, you want me, I can read 25 for you. I'll follow your lead. So you just tell me what to read and then give your commentary, and then I'll go to 37 after that if that's how you want to do it.
Yeah, we can read 25 and then we can read 37. But so nobody says we're just picking things. For those that are watching, please read the entire book. Please read the entire chapter. Because
That
sometimes there can be the accusation when they're just citing certain passages in isolation. Family, what group that's trying to defend whatever their stance is doesn't do that? I
right.
mean,
And
everybody's trying to
then
argue.
I'm just letting them know, Chris, for those that might see the video and they say they're cherry picking. Chris and I have been through, we know the context. So for the sake of time, we're not reading. I went through the sake of reading almost that whole Matthew 10, so Quentin could see, even with the context, it still doesn't work. So I just took the time to do that. But Hebrews 10:25 says, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as the manner of some is, but exhorting one another, and so much the more as ye see the day approaching.
So what was this day that they were
Mm-hmm.
written to have seen approaching from their vantage point? I'm not talking. We're not talking about the vantage point. We're talking about from their vantage point. If we're honest with context, which does not abandon audience relevance, what
Mm,
was this day that
mm,
they saw approaching? Would we be on the other side of that day? Like from their vantage point, what was this day that they saw approaching? Uh,
Let me. I'm gonna go to. You said 35 too, right? You want
37,
37. I'm sorry, 37.
37. Mm,
37 says, "For yet a little while, and he that shall come
little
will
while.
come, and tarry not, and not tarry rather." Mm,
And some translations render that as not delay and will
mm-hmm,
not delay. A little while will come. What is a little while from the perspective of that audience? A little while will come and will not delay. To me, a delay would be if they didn't see this day that we just read they saw approaching. So
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
how is it not delay if the persons that are written about to have seen this day, they're watching this day observe, if they're dead now, if they're sleeping now? Like what is the point in their being told this? Like, what's the point? Like, really, what is the point? Um, I, this just came back to my mind, bro. And this is going back to Second Peter, and we don't have to go there, but Second Peter, uh, chapter 3, um, and the verses that we were dealing with. But there was something that was stated. I think that's in the third verse of the third
Let,
chapter.
I'll go where
Um,
you want me. Let me say something to Robert Britt.
okay,
Good to see Robert on, who is a preachers in the churches of Christ. We didn't dive just yet because we're gonna do this all week. I'm gonna do this all week into AD 70 about that whole destruction of the temple thing. But that
yeah,
still does not answer what Jesus said. He said there be some that will not taste death. Okay, they will not taste death, and they will not have gone over all the cities of Jerusalem till they see the Son of Man come. Now, Quentin, you're trying to make it sound like Jesus sent them out, and I guess when Jesus came to the city to check on them or whatever, maybe that's the backflip you trying to turn. That's just simply not what this text says. And Jesus traveled with these individuals. Don't make any sense. So we will be back this week. So I do invite believers to come on here. Robert, if you want to come on here, Mr. Robert Britt, PhD Britt, come on here and break it down for us. Go ahead, Chris. My bad.
So it's kind of like, and that verse again is in Second Peter chapter 3, verse 3, and it says, knowing this first. So I'm really thinking about who's authoring this, who they're writing to, who they have in mind. Now, why would the writer write this? And based on, if this is the same author, we're just going to entertain that. If this is the same author of the first epistle of Peter, we already established that the author perceived himself as being in the last times. Now, what's the point in telling these persons in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3, to know something, to know this first, if the author had in mind a last day that they weren't already in? What was the
Right.
point? Like, if these persons were going to be dead, based on those today still waiting, they're still waiting on an event. I mean, what's the point of any of this, bro? But uh, and my thing is this, man, and I didn't want to go, but I will go here, and I know we talked about this in Messenger, that when we read the passage in the gospel, it talks about, you know, saying taking the gospel to the world, this and that. But based on what Paul authors in Colossians, that had already happened. Like, every creature had already been preached to under heaven. Some translation says the gospel has pretty much been declared to all creation already. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, in Paul's vantage point, this is why we see the language in his epistles being that of imminence. If you're married, live as if you're not married, because you know what? The coming is soon.
It's gonna be over with soon. No
It's
reason
going to
to.
be over with. And it makes a lot of sense, Elijah. Like, when you see a lot of the language, even within the Gospels, of don't do this or don't do that, it makes sense if the teaching involved the coming that would be close. Don't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the language of imminence. So even when we think about a lot of cults over the last 50 years, a lot of them have been very apocalyptic in nature. So what have many of the followers done? They abandoned things. They gave up
Right.
things. They left things because they believed that this coming was soon. So we see traces of that even within the Gospels. I mean, we see it. So
Absolutely.
it's like, it's like, okay, if you got somebody today that's quoting these letters of Paul, right? From Paul's vantage point, how would Paul really perceive believers today utilizing his letters, expecting they're seeing something that he expected he was going to be a part of in his time?
What made no sense.
It wouldn't make a
And,
sense. I
and
think it,
actually, from Paul and all the other perspective, we shouldn't even be here today. It was supposed to
man,
happen. We should not even be here right now talking about this. This should not even be a topic. But and before you go, I want you to ponder the question, or maybe you can speak to it. But it's really for a believer. I want to know. Here we are, nearly 2,000 years removed. So I guess in about 2035, 2036, we'll be exactly 2,000 years removed from these supposed events. I want to know from believers, what if this was the year, if you could time travel to the year 3000 and Jesus ain't come back yet? What about the year 4000? How long? I want to know, just when would a believer get to the point of saying, now wait a minute. Wait a minute, Jesus. It is now 2530, the year 2530. Where you at, bro? Where you at? When will it be long enough? That's my question to the believers. When will it be long enough?
because I think a very interesting study is when we look at all the apocalyptic groups, bro, and there's been so many of them. One of the things I do enjoy studying is not only cults, mainly the ones that have been very apocalyptic in nature, and what they pointed to as the basis for how they operated as a cult. Very apocalyptic. They're waiting on something still. Many have issued dates. Now, I know a lot of Christians will say, well, the Son of Man didn't know, or we're not supposed to place dates. But I think what's important to see is the behavioral pattern. There is a pattern that
Right.
plays over and over and over again. How many believers are watching this that you heard your parents say Jesus was coming soon? Their
Mm-hmm.
parents said Jesus was coming soon. And not just hearing it, but those that were claiming it, believing that they would be the observers of this event. And they're all dead. I mean,
All.
okay, when does something become insanity, bro? When does something become insanity? That how long does it take before we begin to realize that we're trying to rationalize something while not looking at the behavioral pattern over the centuries, bro? And a lot of times, all those centuries, how many were actually true to the audience in the text, but
Mm.
took themselves as being the audience of the text? So I think why this is so hard is because of the implications. If we were to truly deal with the audience, it makes this Jesus out to be something different, bro. Or the authors that are writing Jesus having said something. Because I think we got to keep it that too. These are persons writing Jesus as having said.
Right.
But if we're to believe that they're true to what they're writing, what does this really say? I think it was who was that? The dude that wrote the Narnia books. Um, dang, what was his name?
I can't call it
I
either
can't I,
because
I can't
they
remember the
say his
name.
name every time they pronounce the book. They say the name too, and I can't call it.
I can't call it, but he said something about that, bro. Like the whole Matthew 24:34 and how that really makes the speaker. I mean, it's I mean, so bro, it's like what I'm trying to stress is I think the reason why these things are not approached this way is because of the implications if we
It's
take it
C
seriously.
C C.S. Lewis did that.
C.S. Lewis,
Yeah,
yes.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S.
Yeah,
Lewis,
C.S. Lewis. I
yes.
had to look it up.
Yeah. Um, but it's yeah, the implications. But if it's really about the truth though, family, what are we where are we willing to go if we say we want to know the truth even about this subject? It may take you into uncomfortable places. Now for those that might say, well, you guys, you have a bias over what you're saying now, that ain't gonna work with me, man.
And I want to
The
say this
narrative
to
that's
Britt, if you can, I don't know if you can
dang,
see it on your screen. He said he's talking about that urgency and it meaning the soon and the quickly meaning to break through at any time. But I want to say to him that Jesus gives us he doesn't say a date, but he does gives us like a timeline when he says you will not have gone through all the cities of Israel till the Son of Man come. Now you got to tell me what does he mean by till the Son of Man come to clear that up some more. If he is he talking about till the Son of
yeah.
Man come, meaning his power, his second coming, which that's what to me it seems like he's talking about, or is he talking about some other coming? Britt, can you tell me what he's talking about? Because Jesus seems to say they will not be done with their ministry until he comes on back. I need to understand that. But we got all week. We got all week. He says, and Quentin
Can
says,
you still
brother,
hear me, bro?
coming. Hmm? What's that?
Oh, can you hear me still?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. But I just want to tell Brett, when he reads that 10th chapter, like I said earlier, when you read Matthew chapter 24, you'll see a lot of overlapping in the language. A whole lot of overlapping. So do we really have something chronological? You know what I'm saying? As it pertains to the layout in Matthew, you know what I'm saying? Um, And we just can see this in the language in chapter 10 of the persecution. They're being persecuted. Um, they're being treated in certain capacities. That same language in Matthew chapter 24. So I would just suggest, as you're reading that, look at Matthew chapter 24. Put them side by side and look at them. And pay attention to some of the similarities that you can see in both of these chapters, which are honestly a part of the same, document. I know we didn't have chapter and verse divisions, but just look at these portions within this document side by side.
Absolutely, absolutely, Chris. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay on this. I'm going to stay on this, and I'm gonna try to check out the comments made with Robert and Quentin, and of course, Chris. You know you are invited when I do the show. But this is just gonna be part one of Jesus coming back soon? Is he coming back? So we already, in my opinion, and from my studies even, we already passed the soon part. We passed that. It's almost 2,000 years. So we gonna stay on this. Michael Jordan is saying stay on it. We gonna stay on this. Robert Britt, you're asking you said did the was Jerusalem destroyed in AD 70? Yes, it was, Albert Britt, and we can get into some of that about some of these writers writing things after the fact, but trying to pass them off as prophecy. Because yes, the temple
Man,
was destroyed in AD 70. So they were hearing about wars and rumors of wars back then. The stage was set for what Jesus said back then. But did Jesus come back is the question here. Did Jesus come back? No, he did not. If he did, why are we still here talking about this? So that being said, Chris, I'll let
man.
you have the last word, man. I'm gonna get into this one tomorrow. I'm gonna get into this.
So all I will say to the family, everything that's been cited, please go back and look into these things for yourself. We all got smart technology. Um, so it's so easy to do a Google search. And please, family, just don't run to sources that will confirm your present perspective. Let's not engage in confirmation bias. Let us look into sources that may be saying what we haven't been taught to say. And if we look into those sources, we'll actually discover that they have reasons behind why they're saying what they're saying. And they could be pointing to the same Bible you're reading from. So let's keep it intellectually honest, family. Let's dig into the subject. If this is something of interest to you, and this week, all of us can be expanded in our overall understanding when it comes to this subject.
Man, I appreciate that. And Chris, you gotta send me the title of that book, man. Them passages you sent me. Send me the information on that book. I want to let y'all know too.
Okay.
I'm doing my book reviews. I got this one. I don't know if y'all can see that. Let There Be Gaslight. And you remember you were telling me about Fanatic, Chris, the guy that came from
Yeah,
Cross Movement. I got the book. I got the book. And I'm
man.
gonna be checking it out. And I can't say nothing right now, but y'all just stay tuned to the channel. I'm in contact with him. I can't say that much. I'm in contact, so we gonna make that happen.
That's what's up.
Hopefully we gonna make that happen. Hey man, Chris, I want to thank you for those of y'all that are out there rocking with the channel. Y'all go ahead and like and share this. Get that YouTube and get over there and subscribe. Share this with your family, your friends. I want to say big thanks to Big Dog here, to Chris for coming on. Chris was the first financial supporter of my platform, and I want to thank him for that. I'm glad I got you on here, brother. Thank you for that in front of all these folk, because this does take a lot of work,
Well,
especially when you got a job, y'all. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot to do, a lot to keep track of, but I got a passion for it. Chris clearly has a passion for it. So, hey, man, we rocking it. And Chris, thank you again, bro, for coming on. And I sure appreciate you, bro. If you able to make it back in here this week, you got first dibs. Come on in, bro.
most definitely, bro. I definitely try to pop in later on this week.
That's what's up. All right, man. We gonna go out with Chief Khalid and his song that he did. And shout out to Carly and all those watching. Robert Quentin. We'll see y'all. Hey everybody, truth is my only religion. Love y'all. Peace.
I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflected in. Their eyes to see the world they know outside. I can close my eyes and see all that and way beyond. When these trials of life come heavy and these obstacles get hard, feeling like I need some answers, I just go and talk to God. I just go and talk to God when I'm looking for guidance. Need more than sight, need vision, need direction when I'm blinded. Then I start that conversation with that voice I hear inside me. And that conversation starts with a voice inside that sounds just like me. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything, your reflection. God, I can find God in anything. When I talk to God, you can see God in anything. When I talk to God, I find God in anything. When I talk to God, my daddy said don't never assume, ask questions. It's ironic it was that advice that helped the song happen. It was also that advice that led me to my life's blessings. That same advice helped me make it through life's lessons. It was that advice that separates grown-ups away from children. That advice can be the difference from knowing or just believing. It was that advice that brought the gavel down on my decision of breaking the mental chains of these man-created religions. The faith and belief, nonsense, the biggest scam ever. I hate to say it, I swear it's one hell of a mental illness. No other time. Why we do it with these religions? The fact that COVID's killing while all of these guys is missing. Peekaboos, guys playing games with you. I'ma just assume he ain't got no COVID miracles. Maybe he ran out after making the donkey talk. Or some stories about a guy walking on water tides. Simply a distraction to keep you away from you and to look outside for a God when the God is inside of you. When you close your eyes at night to pray to that voice you talking to. When you ready to face the truth, you realize that that voice is you. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in. You can see God in anything your reflections in. I can find God in anything I'm reflecting in.